Good morning, guys. Welcome to day 5 of Unit 4, Week 9. We have reviewed a different aspect or skill that we've learned throughout this week, every day. I want to talk about academic vocabulary today. That's something that we've talked about in this unit. So, what is it? Academic vocabulary is words used mostly in books. These are words that are often not a part of our spoken language. You only learn these words through reading and listening to texts at White and above. The more you read these books, the more of these words you learn. So I kind of want to show you an example of some academic vocabulary. So here's an example. This is starting with the White and above. So we can just look right here, like the word amateur, betray, brilliant, captured, disbelief, erupt, exclaim, glared. So I like to call these college words, okay? They're a little bit fancier than using your basic words, okay? So instead of like saying he lied to her, you could say he betrayed her. All right, so now we're going to read from the ARC bookshelf, and I want you guys to help me identify some academic vocabulary within my reading. So we are going to read about farmers and see if we can find some academic vocabulary. Depending on farmers. People depend on farmers. They grow the food we eat. Other things are grown on farms too. Cotton and wool come from plants and animals. It takes special skills to grow lots of plants or crops. So crops is it's an academic vocabulary. So instead of using the words plants, they could use the word crops. It also takes a lot of hard work. Long ago, crops were raised by hand. Then farming machines were invented. This helped farmers grow more crops. More crops fed more people. Farming has changed by the way people live all over the world. So instead of saying that farming machines were made, they were invented. Before farming. Farming began a very long time ago. The first farms were in the Middle East. Before farming, people had to search for food to eat. They ate wild animals. They also ate plants, but it was hard to find enough food. They had to travel a lot to find more food. This meant a lot of moving around. Settling down. Life changed when people learned to farm. Animals and plants were kept on farms. People no longer had to move to find food. This allowed them to stay in one place. They built the first villages. The towns were built close to rivers and springs. The animals and plants needed water to keep growing. Silt from the rivers ran off into the farms. This added nutrients to the soil. So we can look on there and we can see some academic vocabulary. What do you see? I noticed the word nutrients. So that's adding basically stuff that the soil needs to make it better, but that's a fancy way of saying it, right? Instead of saying adding stuff that the soil needs, you could say they added nutrients. Growing more with machines. The first farmers had to do everything by hand. They dug holes in the dirt to plant their seeds. They watered the plants and watched them grow. They waited for the plants to be ready to harvest. Then they gathered them by hand. Soon, new farming tools were invented. The plow was one of the first tools. A plow breaks up the soil. This makes the soil ready for planting. The first plows were made of wood and stone. What all do you see that would be considered academic vocabulary on this page? I saw the word harvest, which they put in bold for us, and we know that when they're harvesting plants, they're picking them, right? So that's a better way to say that. And then I saw that they talked about how they plowed the soil. What do you think soil is? Soil is dirt, right? And plowing means to kind of dig up and stir up. So those are two academic vocabulary words that they used. Better tools, bigger crops. A man named John Deere invented a steel plow in 1837. This metal plow was stronger than the ones made of wood. It worked better and lasted longer. It pushed up and turned over soil. Oxen and horses were used to pull the heavy plows across fields. This made the farmers' work much easier. Today, large tractors pull plows. There are many kinds of machines used to care for crops. Machines allow farmers to plant more land. The larger the farm, the more food it can grow. What will we grow? Farmers must choose which crops to grow. Their choice depends upon where they live. The right kind of weather is needed for crops to stay healthy. The soil must be right for the kind of plants they want to grow. Some crops need more water than others. Some of the biggest crops grown today are wheat, rice, and corn. Animals that give us food are also raised on farms. Hens lay the eggs we eat. Cows give us milk. Feeding the farms. Crops need water and healthy soil to grow. Long ago, farmers had to carry water themselves in buckets. Then they invented new ways to move water to land. This is called irrigation. Today, some farmers use a system called drip irrigation. This is a good way to water crops. Water is put right onto the plant's roots. This keeps the root wet at all times. It also stops water from being wasted. Farmers also use fertilizer to help plants grow. This mixture adds nutrients to the soil. It helps to keep plant roots strong to fight disease. So there's several academic vocabulary on here. So instead of saying that they needed to invent a way to water all the plants, they used a fancy word called irrigation. That's what they called what they were inventing, right? And the word system is another academic vocabulary, and fertilizer. So there's lots of academic vocabulary within this book. It says protecting crops. Farmers work hard to protect their crops. Insects kill many plants. Farmers spray chemicals on their crops to keep the bugs away. These sprays are called pesticides. People worry that pesticides are hurting our air. Some farmers do not use them. They are called organic farmers. Organic food is thought to be better for you. So as you notice right here, sometimes with words that are bigger, sometimes with the academic vocabulary, they kind of break it apart for you into the different syllables to help make it a little bit easier for you to read because they know that you might not be familiar with these words. So pesticides is one of those academic vocabulary, and we know that that just means bug spray basically, right? And chemicals, that's like a mixture of things that they put together and they spray on the crops. And organic is another academic vocabulary word. We don't really use the word organic a lot in our everyday speech, but basically organic is that they're not adding anything to their crops or to their animals. So I'm going to read just a little bit more of this book, and then you can finish it up on your own later today and see if you can find any more academic vocabulary in this book. Selling food around the world. Farmers used to grow just enough food for people who lived close by. Then farmers started to grow more food. They did not know what to do with all the extra food. Some farmers began to trade the food for other things they needed. Other farmers began to sell the food. Today, farmers sell their crops all over the world. Large ships can take their crops to other countries, but this can take a long time. The food may go bad, so some farmers send their crops on planes. Thank the farmers. Large cities need lots of food. We also like many types of food. We depend on farmers for this. The work of a farmer can be very hard. There is much to do to keep crops growing healthy and growing and healthy. Farmers are important to us all. Their work keeps us fed. Nearly everything you eat comes from a farm. Think of farmers the next time you eat fruits or vegetables. Think of all the hard work that went into growing that food. There's a little bit more to this book, but like I said, you can go on the ARC bookshelf and find this book. It is right here in the white level. It's called Farmers Then and Now. You might have to have somebody help read it to you, but you can go through and see if you can find some more academic vocabulary and you can figure out what those words mean. All right, guys, bye.